My fiancée reconnected with her former partner during a break and then disappeared on me for weeks, only to return expecting a wedding. But I had plans she never anticipated. My fiancée, Lily, 27, female, and I, 29, male, have been in a relationship for 3 years. She's intelligent, humorous, and has a unique ability to make you feel like you're the only person in the room. I proposed last year, and we began organizing a summer wedding. Everything seemed to be going well, or so I thought. One day, Lily informed me that she was heading to her hometown to spend time with her sister. Lily is very close to her family, and since she hadn't visited in a while, it didn't seem unusual. She packed a bag, kissed me goodbye, and assured me she would return in a couple of weeks. Initially, I didn't think much of it. We exchanged texts occasionally, and she called me the first night to confirm she arrived safely. However, the next day, things began to feel off. She called me in the afternoon and said, "I need to talk to you about something." I replied, "Sure, what's up?" That's when she dropped the bombshell. "I think I need some time to think." I was trying to process this, so I asked, "Think about what? Is this about the wedding? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Did I do something wrong?" She didn't really respond, just said, "I feel like I need some time for myself." Not wanting to push too hard, I said, "Okay, if you need space, I understand. Just let me know what's going on." She promised we would talk soon, but everything felt off. The conversation ended on a strange note. I was left wondering, what just happened? After that, communication virtually ceased. I texted her a few times with casual messages like, "Hey, how's it going?" or "Hope you're having a good day." But she never replied. I tried calling her, but she didn't answer. She even stopped posting on social media, which was odd because she usually shared everything, from her morning coffee to random sunset photos. I reached out to her sister, hoping she could provide some insight into what was happening. Her sister replied with a brief, "Haven't seen her much, sorry," which didn't help at all. It felt like everyone was shutting me out. At this point, I started losing sleep over it. My friends tried to reassure me, saying she was probably just taking a break, but that didn't sit well with me. This wasn't like her. She had never been the type to go silent, especially not on me. The strangest part was how sudden it all felt. We were literally in the middle of choosing flower arrangements just a week before she left. There were no major arguments, no signs of trouble. I kept replaying every conversation we'd had, trying to figure out if I had missed something, but everything seemed fine until it wasn't. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she genuinely needed some time alone. Perhaps she was dealing with something she didn't know how to express yet. But as days turned into weeks, my patience began to wear thin. If something was wrong, why couldn't she just tell me? That's when I started questioning everything. Was she really staying with her sister? What if there was something or someone else involved? I hated thinking like that, but the lack of answers was driving me insane. I spent countless nights staring at my phone, hoping for a text or a missed call that never came. Each passing day felt heavier than the last. I tried to distract myself with work and friends, but nothing worked. I felt like my entire world was on hold. After a couple of weeks of silence from Lily, I decided enough was enough. How much space does one person need? If she wasn't going to tell me what was going on, I would find out for myself. I packed an overnight bag, fueled up my car, and drove to her hometown. It wasn't a quick trip, but I had plenty of time to mentally prepare for whatever awkward or uncomfortable conversation awaited me. I kept telling myself maybe she was just stressed. Maybe it wasn't that serious. But deep down, I had a sinking feeling that things were about to get complicated. When I arrived at her parents' house, where I assumed she was staying, my heart raced. I knocked on the door, and for a moment I thought no one was home. Then Lily opened it. The expression on her face said it all. She was not expecting me. She stood there for a moment staring at me like I was a surprise quiz she hadn't studied for. Finally, she stepped aside and let me in, mumbling something about how she didn't think I would come. We sat down in the living room and everything felt off. It wasn't the usual comfort I felt with Lily, where we could just sink into the couch and talk about anything. She started with small talk. "How was your drive? Did you hit any traffic? Want something to drink?" It felt like she was trying too hard to sound normal. I played along at first, giving her short, clipped responses, but my patience was wearing thin. I didn't come all this way to discuss highway conditions. There was a long, awkward pause where neither of us spoke. She blanked out, and when she finally glanced up, I asked, "Lily, what's going on? Why haven't you been answering my calls or texts?" Her reaction was immediate. "I've been trying to figure some things out," she said softly, almost too quietly to hear. "Figure what out?" I was trying to keep my cool. She hesitated. She wasn't sure how to express what she needed to say. The silence stretched on, and I could feel my heartbeat getting louder in my ears. Then she finally said it. I ran into my ex when I got here. It felt like the ground had just shifted beneath me. I stared at her, trying to process what she had just said, and I asked, my voice as steady as I could manage, though I already felt a storm brewing inside me. What do you mean? It wasn't planned, she said. I saw him at the grocery store and we ended up talking. That word, talking, hit me like a slap. It wasn't that she had seen her ex. That could happen to anyone. It was the way she said it, as if it were no big deal, but it clearly was a big deal, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. I leaned forward, trying to maintain my composure. Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? I asked. Her eyes darted to the side, avoiding mine. I didn't want to upset you until I knew how I felt. How you felt? I repeated, my voice rising slightly. We're engaged, Lily. We're planning a wedding. What do you mean? How you felt? That's when she said. I've been spending some time with him, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I needed to see if there were any unresolved feelings. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. My mind was racing, trying to wrap itself around what she just said. Unresolved feelings? We were supposed to be getting married, and you're out here playing emotional hopscotch with your ex? I just needed to know for sure, she said. I didn't want to go into our marriage with any doubts. I felt my chest tighten, my hands clenching into fists. So you've been ignoring me this whole time because of him? I couldn't stay quiet. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why didn't you talk to me about this instead of shutting me out? She started to respond, but I wasn't done. What does this mean for us, Lily? Are you still trying to figure it out? Because I'm not going to sit around waiting for you to decide if I'm plan A or plan B. Her face crumpled, and for a split second, I thought she might cry. But instead, she said, I didn't want to hurt you. I needed time to sort my emotions. Do you even hear yourself right now? I shot back. Leaving me in the dark for weeks was a hell of a lot worse than just being honest from the start. The conversation went in circles after that. Every time I tried to get a straight answer, she dodged it, giving me vague excuses about needing clarity and not wanting to make a mistake. I could feel my energy draining with every passing minute. By the end of it, I was done, completely, utterly done. I stood up, looked at her one last time, and said, I need some time to think, just like she had said. Her eyes widened, as if she didn't expect me to say that, but I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed my keys and walked out. The drive back home after that conversation was one of the longest and most surreal trips of my life. I wasn't angry, at least not in a yelling and breaking things kind of way, but I was hurt, really hurt. I kept replaying everything Lily said, trying to make sense of it. Unresolved feelings? What did that even mean? Why couldn't she just talk to me about it instead of ghosting me for weeks? The next few days were a blur. I went to work, but I wasn't really present, you know? My coworkers asked if I was okay, and I gave the usual, yeah, just tired excuse. My friends checked in too, but I didn't have the energy to explain the whole mess. Eventually, I confided in a couple of close friends about what happened. Their reactions were a mix of shock and outrage. My buddy Mark said, Dude, that's messed up. She should have told you the second this guy showed up. My other friend, Jenna, was more blunt. If she's entertaining her ex while engaged to you, she doesn't deserve you. Hearing it from others made me realize just how bad the situation was, but it also made me feel foolish. How did I not see this coming? Were there signs I missed? The thing that hurt the most was how blindsided I felt. We'd been planning our future together, choosing wedding venues, discussing where we wanted to live, even talking about names for future kids. And now, all of that felt like a lie. I started going through our text messages, looking for anything that might explain her behavior. Nothing stood out. Our conversations had been normal, happy even, right up until she left for her hometown. It was as if she flipped a switch the moment she saw her ex. One night, I decided to message her sister. I wasn't trying to drag her into the middle of things, but I needed some clarity. Her response was short and vague. I think Lily's just going through some stuff. She'll figure it out. Figure it out? What was there to figure out? We were supposed to be a team, and now I was completely in the dark. A week later, I received a text from Lily. It wasn't an apology or an explanation, just a casual, "Hey, how are you?" as if everything was fine. I didn't respond. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? "Oh, hey, I'm great. Thanks for ignoring me while you hung out with your ex." The silence between us grew louder with each passing day. I felt more distant from her, more certain that whatever we had was crumbling. I started questioning if I even wanted to salvage it. Could I forgive her? Could I trust her again? At the same time, I felt stuck. We'd built a life together, or at least we were supposed to. Breaking up wasn't just about ending a relationship, it meant unraveling everything we'd planned and starting over from scratch. The thought of that was terrifying, but the alternative was pretending everything was okay when it clearly wasn't, and that wasn't an option. I began to think about what I wanted, what I deserved. I realized I couldn't continue in a relationship where I felt uncertain and undervalued. After much contemplation, I decided to take a step back and evaluate my feelings. I needed to prioritize my well-being and happiness. I reached out to a therapist to help me process everything that had happened. Talking to someone who could provide an objective perspective was incredibly helpful. As the days turned into weeks, I focused on myself. I reconnected with friends, picked up hobbies I had neglected, and started to rediscover who I was outside of my relationship with Lily. It was a challenging journey, but I began to feel more empowered and less like a victim of circumstances. Eventually, I came to a conclusion. I deserved someone who would communicate openly and honestly, someone who wouldn't disappear when faced with uncertainty. I realized that while I had loved Lily deeply, I could not be with someone who was still entangled in their past. With a heavy heart, I decided to end things with her. I sent a message explaining my feelings and the reasons behind my decision. I expressed my hope that she would find clarity and happiness, but I knew I had to prioritize my own emotional health. When she responded, it was filled with regret and confusion. She wanted to talk, to explain herself further, but I felt it was too late. I had made my choice, and I needed to stick to it for my own sake. In the end, I learned a valuable lesson about self-worth and the importance of clear communication in relationships. It was a painful experience, but it ultimately led me to a place of growth and understanding. I was ready to move forward, embracing the future with hope and resilience.